the ending of the Neo Egoist League, we are now headed to the long-awaited Under 20 World Cup arc. This arc has the potential to become one of the best arcs in Buok. The 23 Buok players will be playing in this tournament instead of the usual national team. This arc marks Buok's transition from national to international competition. It is guaranteed that the players will face a lot tougher opponents and will be faced with a lot harder situations, which will push them to evolve even more. Imagine what kind of monsters other countries are hiding. If Rin and Isagi are Japan's favorites, what kind of players are dominating in Brazil, Argentina and Spain. The Under 20 World Cup is about to introduce a new wave of rivals, and they could change everything. And with that I expect that more new Gen 11 players will be revealed. As of now we only know Kaiser, Itoshi Sae and Lorenzo, but that will surely change when we get to see other countries' powerhouses like Brazil, Argentina, England and Spain. These players won't just challenge Japan's defense, they will challenge everything Buok stands for. They will be the perfect measuring stick for how far Isagi and the others have come, and how far they still have to go. The first rival is Kaiser. With his recent loss to Isagi, we saw him leaving the NEL disappointed in himself, but there was Ness who said that he will help Kaiser regain his former glory, with Ness stating that his new goal from now on is to cast a spell on Kaiser's broken soul. The other two people that I'm interested in are the duo of Loki and Charles. We learned during the last game of the NEL that Loki's main goal was to train Charles so that he is able to give him the perfect passes so he can ascend to the world's best striker. With Loki being a genius and Charles being a talented learner, they have the perfect combination. Also, we cannot forget the heated exchange between Loki and Isagi. That must have left a sour taste in Loki, and we can expect for sure that he will want to destroy Isagi if they get to meet during the matches. In chapter 301, we were told that there are 50 days till the Under 20 World Cup starts, which gives a lot of time for both Loki and Charles, and of course Kaiser and Ness. 50 days is a lot, and we can definitely expect a lot of improvement from them. But the third rival is a questionable one, because he might refuse to play for his own country and choose to play for Spain, and the player I'm talking about is of course Itoshi Sae. For now we don't know what exactly is going to happen. Did he watch the NEL? Is he now more interested in his brother and maybe even in Isagi? We can only speculate for now whether Kaneshiro will save Sae, joining Japan for the real World Cup after this one. And in this Under 20 World Cup he will play for another country and not play for Japan. Because he still doesn't see his brother as a great striker yet. And we need to also talk about what the 23 players in Buok are going to do for the remaining 50 days. They will need to find new ways to make chemical reactions, and I can't wait to see how they embrace their evolved selves. With Isagi's new ego being that he wants to win at all costs, that could mean that he can make chemical reactions with other selfish geniuses like Rin and Baro. A big problem I think we might see is Isagi being overconfident. Ever since the Neo Egoist League, he's been riding a massive wave of momentum. He outplayed Kaiser, evolved his meta vision, and became the heart of Buster Munich's attack. But with that rise comes a subtle, creeping danger: overconfidence. We know that Isagi has become one of the best players in Buok, but still, he can get overconfident. We saw that when he stopped Rin's shot with the help of both Kaiser and Gagamaru. But when he explained his thought process, he said that he predicted everything up until Gagamaru's crazy save. Which means that if Gagamaru wasn't the beast he is, then that could have ended the match right then and there. And he couldn't stop Rin by himself. He needed the help of two other players. But later, we saw how Kaiser was able to stop Rin by himself, which was definitely a surprise. We have seen the development of Isagi's ego and how he can combine forces with even the people he hates the most, if it means that it will bring victory to him. And this brings me to the next point, and that is Japan losing the Under 20 World Cup. And honestly, that might be exactly what needs to happen. Not for shock value, but for growth. Let's be real, Buok was never about guaranteeing instant success. It's a high risk, high reward system built to produce one world class striker. Now that these players are stepping on the international stage, they are facing complete teams. Systems refined over years, filled with athletes who've competed at the highest levels and come from football cultures built on winning. Even the most evolved Buok players are still new to this kind of coordinated intensity. And this isn't just about ability, it's about identity. Buok's entire philosophy is about individuality, ego and self-expression. But in this World Cup setting, they will go up against teams that function like machines, flawless passing networks, positional fluidity, players willing to sacrifice personal glory for the greater good. In contrast, Buok's every man for himself DNA might be exposed. The very thing that helped them rise could now be their weakness. But that's what makes a potential loss so compelling. It would be a necessary fall, one that forces introspection. Can Ego's system work on the world stage, or will it need to evolve? What happens when raw talent and self-belief aren't enough? A loss would push players like Isagi, Rin and Baro to confront their limitations, not just as strikers, but as teammates. It could mark the point where Buok stops being an experiment and becomes a real team, and narratively it sets up something huge. A loss here plants the seeds for a full circle comeback in the next arc, maybe the real World Cup. That's where you bring everyone back. Isagi as a true field general, Rin surpassing Sai, and the entire Buok roster learning how to weaponize their egos within the team structure. That kind of long-term payoff, it hits harder than a clean sweep victory now. So yeah, Japan might fall short, but sometimes losing the battle is what it takes to win the war. And when the rematch comes, the world won't be ready for what Buok has become. If Japan does lose this Under-20 World Cup, the real story becomes how do they evolve? Who becomes the core of the next generation? The truth is, Buok was never about building just one genius. It was about forging a system where ego sharpens ego. And now, after facing the world's best, that crucible is going to burn even hotter. Players like Isagi will be forced to mature, not just in terms of skill, but leadership. He is slowly becoming the brain of Japan's offense, someone who controls the tempo and vision of the match. But he can't do it alone, and even Rin's relentless drive will need to fuse into something great. What Igo would call the true striker unit. But one of the most exciting developments, the return of Nagi Seishiro. Let's not forget, Nagi fell behind during the Neo Egoist League, while players like Isagi evolved rapidly. Nagi struggled with motivation and purpose, but that's exactly why his comeback could be terrifying. Nagi is a genius, the kind of player who picks up techniques faster than anyone. Now imagine him coming back hungry, not just to show off, but to dominate. A Nagi with ambition. That's a new beast entirely. If Nagi starts taking football seriously, if he begins chasing evolution the same way Isagi and Rin do, he could become Japan's most unstoppable weapon. He has the control and the flexibility, all he was missing was hunger. And with the pain of being left behind, that hunger might be finally waking up. And this is just one example, others will rise too. Baru needs to evolve, even Hiyori possibly stepping into a bigger playmaking role. After facing nations that thrive on teamwork, Japan's next step might be merging ego with harmony, unleashing a team that can overwhelm opponents not just with individual brilliance, but with chemistry forged through shared fire. The post-Under-20 World Cup era won't be about isolated geniuses anymore. It will be about creating a system where ego-driven strikers evolve into synchronized predators. And with players like Nagi re-entering the battlefield, Japan's true golden generation may just be getting started. Everything we've seen so far, the Neo Egoist League and now the Under-20 World Cup arc, is just the beginning. Ego made it clear from the start. This is about creating the world's best striker, but to win the actual World Cup, Japan needs more than just one ego. It needs an army of monsters. This Under-20 tournament might expose Japan's flaws, but it will also give us a preview of what comes next. The players who survive this arc will carry scars, but also experience, and from those battles, a new identity will form, one that blends ego with cohesion, vision with discipline. We will likely see a new leadership group emerge. Isagi as the field general, Baro as the spearhead, and maybe even Nagi as the wildcard genius. Add in playmakers like Hiyori, support runners like Chigiri, and you've got the blueprint for a legitimate World Cup squad. And remember, Ego isn't building a team for this tournament, he's building a revolution. If Japan falls short now, it will only sharpen the edge. When they return for the real World Cup, after failures, after growth, that's when Buok will be fully unleashed. So don't be surprised if this arc ends with Japan falling. It's not a failure, it's part of Ego's long game. And when the real World Cup comes around, the world will finally understand what Buok was really about. Turning a nation of underdogs into champions, not with teamwork alone, but with revolution through Ego.